is running for Congress. However, we've never done a candidate interview of Kevin, and we haven't grilled him on his issues. We haven't asked him some of those hard questions, some of the nice questions too. So we figured tomorrow's election day. We should definitely make sure that people know where Kevin stands on the issues, which probably they do if they listen to Radio Free New York, but just in case.
Yeah, I'm on here so often, obviously, but I never talk about the campaign much, so you can kind of infer where I stand on a lot of issues if you haven't heard me speaking about them already. But I haven't spoken directly to him, so thanks for the chance to do this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Kevin, why don't we just start with kind of what we would normally start with, which is the people who are listening here who maybe it's the first time they're even hearing that your name's on the ballot. Tell them a little bit about you, your background, and why you think running for Congress is important.
Yeah, sure. So, I am someone who's been involved in kind of fighting for liberty for a long time, right? you know, started out, I was in the Republican Party for a while. I decided that the Republican Party no longer represented my values, that although they spoke about limited government, they spoke about civil liberties, they spoke about being fiscally responsible, that they had moved far away from that message. I looked up to people like Ron Paul and Rand Paul and Congressman Amash, and I saw that there's very little room in that party for a person like me. So I kind of left that party. But I was active. I had worked in a congressional office for a while for a guy named Richard Hanna. I'd worked in a local office and a district office as an intern and then later a staff assistant. And since really 2013, I've been kind of working on the libertarian end of things, helping libertarian candidates from Larry Sharp to you, Andrew, when you were running for city council as a Republican and Libertarian back in 2017, and others throughout the years. And, on top of that, I'm also someone who is active in neighborhood organizations. I live in the city of Rochester. I see some of the challenges and opportunities for growth in the city at the grassroots level by speaking with various neighborhood leaders and seeing what happens on the ground here. And in some of these same challenges apply throughout the district. I also work as a digital marketer, so I see kind of the challenges that small businesses and nonprofits face right now, particularly in the age of COVID-19. But, in the environment that we have with federal regulations, taxes, state rules, and laws too, which we definitely need to support candidates on the state and local level to deal with those issues. But I see some of these challenges that businesses face, and I think we need someone in Congress who can stand up and address these issues and to help empower people to operate their businesses, their nonprofit organizations, and do different things to contribute to the community. So that's the main reason why I'm running that. And of course, things like protecting your civil liberties too, getting back to constitutional governance. I felt like we needed someone outside the two-party system in this race. I've told people this before, I really wanted someone else to run. I was trying to get other candidates to run for this position. Many of you might know I was the chair of the Monroe County Libertarian Party for many years, and I wanted someone to be in this position. And I wanted it to be someone else initially, but we weren't able to find someone else who was able to generate media, who had the time and the resources to go and speak with voters and to represent this campaign well. So I decided that it was my turn to step up. I've done a lot of supporting great liberty-minded candidates who've been fighting for a better life for you here in New York, and it's my turn to do the same, to make that sacrifice and to put myself out there and hope that we can, if not win, then at least build on something to start to fundamentally change the policy in New York and to set us free.
Yeah, and I gotta say, first off, you've been awesome in supporting campaigns. You and I have worked together on two of my campaigns, and it was so exciting to see you step up and say, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna run. And that was definitely very exciting for me. I'm not sure if it was exciting for your wife or not, but
Yeah, maybe less so. She was excited about it. First, she's like, "You sure you want to do that? It's a lot of time." But no, she's excited. She's been awesome
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. It's always great to have family support you. So for people who are listening to the show and they're like, yeah, I kind of like what Kevin's saying so far. I'm interested in hearing about the issues, which we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But congressional district 25. What areas does that cover so people know if they're in your voting area?
Great question. So it is most of Monroe County. It's not including Hamlin and a couple of towns in the southern portion of the county. And if you're outside of that, if you're west or south of that county, then you should definitely check out Dwayne Whitmer, who has been on this show quite a few times. He's a great candidate running in that district. But so I'm, the city and some of the surrounding suburbs in Monroe County, that's what New York 25 is. It's been condensed since 2012. It used to be a weird district when Louis Slaughter was there that would kind of run up along the lake. But we have a district that kind of makes sense now. And, right now the incumbent is Joe Morelli. He's a Democrat. He's been there for a couple years now in that spot. But previously he was the Assembly Minority Leader, I believe, in the New York State Assembly. And before that, he was in county politics. Like, literally, he's been in politics longer than I've been alive. He's been in office. So, challenges related to how New York State is running, he's had a hand in all of that.
Sure. Yeah, and certainly the name recognition and all of that creates a challenge for you. If somebody's been a career politician for their whole life, it can be hard to get fresh, new, inspiring ideas into office.
Yeah, and there's something interesting about Congressman Morelli is, and I'll say this for him, he's a great politician. I don't mean that as a compliment. I mean he's really, really good at like getting elected and knowing what people like want to hear from a politician, right? And I'll tell you the story. I ran into someone at the public market a couple weeks ago who talked about how great his constituent services were and how he was advocating for. Someone was saying he was advocating for his their son who was arrested for marijuana. He's like, oh, well, Congressman Morelli's so great on this thing, and he's helping us out. It's like, well, Congressman Morelli also, when he was in the state assembly, was part of the people who increased punishments for marijuana possession. And we got talking about like how his legacy in politics, he's kind of been on both sides of this issue. He's been, an opponent of legalization. He's been for the increased criminalization of people, and this family whose child is in prison for marijuana possession right now. That's the legacy of Congressman Morelli, and so that's why I felt like I need to step into this, because again, he's been in politics long enough where we're seeing him now try to deal with the damages that the policies he's advocating for have caused. And for me, I think it's too late. We need to bring bold ideas outside the two-party system to this discussion, to this race. And voters are frustrated with the lack of accountability for the legacy that he's left.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this ties into one of my favorite topics, which is term limits specifically. And I guess in his instance, it probably, since he's semi-recently in the position, it doesn't apply. But just as, career politicians in general, and I specifically feel this way very strongly about Congress, how important it is for us to have term limits. We have term limits in many places, but Congress is one of those places that we don't have term limits, and I think that I think it's something important that we should really have. We should have them for the governorship here in New York as well, and for our city council seats and many other elected positions. I think people should have the opportunity to provide that public service and then step away from it instead of turning it into a very lucrative career, to be frank and forward. So, guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We've got Kevin Wilson here. He's running for Congress in New York's 25th district. We'll be back in a moment to talk about the issues.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
This year, Camp Good Days is reimagining the 20th annual wine auction dinner as an online auction. The auction will be held on November 12th through the 19th and will include medal-winning wines and spirits from this year's Finger Lakes International Wine and Spirits Competition, and also an array of other exciting auction items. Cancer doesn't stop during the pandemic, and neither do we. We have continued offering a variety of programs for our families, including virtual camps. The money raised from this auction will help us to continue providing our many programs and services for children and families in our community impacted by cancer. Please visit campgooddays.org or call 585-624-5555 for more information.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We have Kevin Wilson with us today, and he's not wearing his Bills uniform. He's wearing his jacket because he's running for New York 25th District for Congress. So
Yeah, right. Normally I wear my Bills hat. It's Victory Monday. They beat the Patriots yesterday. I'm stoked.
Yeah, I think we had a comment on the live stream. Yeah, Garrett says jacket and buffalo plaid. Only Kevin Wilson could pull that off.
The buffalo check. Yeah, it's my normal look.
Got to represent Western New York.
That's
so,
right.
Kevin, you're running for Congress. You're running against Joe Morelli. What is your number one issue, and then maybe follow it up with your next two really important issues? The issues that you want the people to hear are the things that, if elected, you would take to Congress and fight for on the behalf of the people in your district.
Yeah, so my number one issue, and honestly the issue that I've heard a ton of people talk about recently, COVID-19 has made it a lot worse, is changing how we think about education. Right, so my idea with that is that I want to make sure that people have more choice in education. I want people to be able to, families to be able to make educational arrangements that work for them. I want people to be able to select the schools that work for them, that select the curriculums that work for them. I want people to be able to have greater choice to make sure that we can have again, an educational program that meets the needs of modern students and the modern economy. So that might look like there's a bill right now. There's a Senate version of a bill called the School Act that Rand Paul's supporting, and basically it says that right now you should be able to take your taxpayer money, and you should be able to use that towards school expenses in a way that makes sense. Now, of course, we have to work out the details of what that looks like. You have to cooperate with school or state boards of education and local boards of education on how that's implemented in practice. But like the big concept idea is that if a schooling arrangement doesn't work for you right now, you ought to have the choice to be able to go and find an arrangement that does work for you. You're paying for this stuff. You're already contributing taxes to this stuff. And unless you're really wealthy, you're not able to go out and seek out private schools and other options, particularly in New York. So there should be more ways to be able to facilitate that. So again, that might look like, so in this Rochester City School District, there is all virtual learning right now. It's going to be that way through at least the end of the calendar year. And for a lot of families, that doesn't work. Something like 8% of people said they're having serious problems. They don't like it. Another 20% said they're having significant problems. Another 38% said that they are having, just kind of general challenges with it, but maybe smaller problems. So for a lot of families, the virtual learning isn't working as well as they would have hoped. And again, I'm not trying to take away anything from the teachers and administrators who are working hard on this, because I think they really are trying to make this work. But for some families, especially if you work in the service industry and you have nowhere for your child to go that's safe while you go to work, it doesn't work. So for those families, you should have the option to be able to go and pursue a homeschooling pod where you're able to build a curriculum to leverage, distance learning and digital techniques and curriculums built for that kind of teaching method, and be able to go to a safe neighborhood place where you can use funds to hire a teacher and build an educational program and an arrangement for a classroom for your child to go that works. That's what I want to do. I want to give more choices for that.
And I think that it's probably worth bringing up, because I know we have a lot of listeners here that listen to the show that are very invested in homeschooling. Homeschooling is very, very important for them. And they might be thinking right now, oh, is Kevin going to come up with some sort of tax break or tax incentive for homeschoolers? And I just want to kind of like throw out there that the school taxes that we pay here in New York are managed by New York, and in Congress you wouldn't really have a say in that.
No, I wouldn't have a say in that. I would love to see New York State do that, though. I'd love to see, like, again, how do we make it easier for you to keep your own money and to have that money contribute to your child's education? If we're paying, $10,000 per student, $17,000 per student, sometimes even more, imagine being able to.
School district averages, I think it's $27,000 or $28,000 per student right now.
It's an enormous amount of money.
College education.
Yeah, imagine being able to. Yeah, that's per year too. Yeah. Imagine being able to take those dollars and apply those to, a homeschooling education program and all the different resources you'd need. Would you think you'd even need that much if you're able, particularly if you're able to get a classroom together with 10 people and share some resources that way? No, you'd be able to apply some of those dollars to provide an even better education and to find teachers and to find learning styles that work for your child. And again, that's the goal, is not every child learns the same. I recognize that. Libertarians generally recognize that we're all individuals. We all have different ways of learning, different ways of connecting our interests to core subjects, like the math, science, reading. We have different ways of connecting those. Now imagine that your child can find a way to connect and learn about the basis for those subjects in a way that they find more compelling, that the school district isn't offering right now. Again, they're not offering it not because they're bad necessarily, but because they have to apply a one-size-fits-all solution to everybody. That's just the nature of the beast.
So it's probably safe to assume then, and I'll let you answer this as a question. Right now, I believe New York State gets $4 billion, I think, in federal funds for Common Core, to force Common Core on the people of New York State. If you were in Congress, would you take that on and say, Common Core shouldn't be mandated in New York State. Is that something that you would consider?
Absolutely. No, I don't think that Common Core should be mandatory for anyone. I mean, if there's chunks of that curriculum you like and you want to keep in your individual school, okay, fine, do your thing. I'm not here to control that either. But no, should it be mandated at the federal level? No, again, I don't believe in one size fits all solutions. I don't believe that Washington should be telling students in Rochester or Avon or, out in the middle of Nebraska how to teach their students. We can make recommendations. The Department of Education, honestly, it could probably devolve into a nonprofit advocacy group that could just make suggestions about curriculum instead of what we have now, which is, again, a top-down controlling system that uses funding to control local school districts and makes it difficult for them to operate outside of a very narrow paradigm.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. And something that I've talked about a couple times on this show is that I was really hoping that COVID would have allowed education to evolve into something much better, where you could have, let's call it schools without borders, which would mean that if you wanted to go to a highly specialized virtual school, that you could do that. And it didn't matter if that school was going to be in New York State or Florida or Pennsylvania, since we're doing all this distance learning and this remote learning. Why are we making it so difficult for people to access just their local school district? And does it make sense to even have school districts anymore? Because if you're sitting there on Zoom in the classroom and you really want to pursue a degree in engineering, and you're just like really into math and numbers and science as a a junior or senior in high school, why couldn't you finish out your high school in a virtual learning classroom in, I don't know, somewhere in California that's the best engineering high school in the country or something? Like
Yeah.
that's something that government officials should be like peeling back red tape, making things easier, and saying like, yeah, this is a way for our nation to prosper and take a bad situation and make it into a great way to evolve education.
Yeah, no, and then that's exactly what I envision too, right? Like if you're interested in engineering and your school just doesn't have that option right now, like you should be able to take that class. If you're interested in learning about, I don't know, like history through cooking or something, and you can still get that basic understanding of history and connect that with other things, or chemistry through cooking too. Like if you're able to connect with those on a virtual level with excellent teachers from anywhere in the country, why shouldn't we remove the barriers from doing so right now? Why shouldn't we start thinking outside the box? There's so many possibilities out there to think about education in a totally new way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did get a question about your campaign yesterday that's definitely along these lines. Somebody said, well, is Kevin going to allow Christian schools to continue to operate and run, or is he going to try to close them down? And it's kind of spoke to the misunderstanding that that's not really the policy you'd be able to approach anyways. But in general, what is your feeling about private religious schools?
I mean, again, I'd say I'm for school choice, and that's what I mean. I mean that you should be able to build an education program that works for you. And if you want to be able to do that through, an education that discusses Christianity too, then more power to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's exactly where I expected you'd stand. But I figured if that person's listening or somebody else is listening with the same question, if they've heard, whatever they might have heard, it's good to hear it from you. All right, awesome. Well, we are going to take our break here, and when we come back, I think we're just going to go through a couple other platform items here. I've got a couple questions that I know some of our listeners are going to want asked. So we're going to take a break here on Radio Free New York. You're listening to Kevin Wilson, who's running for New York State Congressional District 25. We'll be back in a moment.
ISL now conducts a test of the emergency alert system. This is only a test.
because you're not sheep. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. Tonight, strong wind out there. Could be some gusts over 40 miles an hour. Tonight with a few lake effect snow and rain showers in the 30s. Tuesday, morning clouds, maybe a shower of rain or wet snow that'll clear up in the afternoon in the low 40s, and sunshine back near 60 on Wednesday. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
Grab a pen. I'm going to give you a phone number in a moment for attorney Christopher Johnson. Chris handles car and motorcycle accident cases and DWIs and serious personal injury cases. More on that in a moment. Let's talk about big law firm advertising. You can't miss it these days. The millions lawyers spend on promotion brings in a lot of clients. That's good for the lawyer, not so good for you. The more cases a lawyer has, the less attention you get. If there's an accident or other incident, you want to feel like you're Chris Johnson's only client. So this is the number you want in your glove compartment for serious vehicle accidents or DWIs. 585-415-3803. 415-3803. At that number, you'll get individual attention and integrity, experience, and expertise. One more thing. Any so-called guarantee from a lawyer is neither not real or worthless. Understand, no attorney charges a fee until you win. So write it down, 585-415-3803. Stay safe, be healthy, drive sober. Christopher Johnson, attorney, personal injury, car, or motorcycle accidents, DWI defense.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Need help with health insurance? The Greece Regional Chamber provides assistance with health insurance for businesses, nonprofits, families, and individuals throughout our region. We pride ourselves on the personalized service that we provide for our clients. Let us help you find health insurance plans that fit your needs and navigate the paperwork. Greece Chamber Benefit Partners, located at 2402 Westridge Road in Rochester, New York, offers a broad range of medical insurance plans for businesses, nonprofits, individuals, and families throughout the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region, working with insurance companies including Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, Univera, and MVP Healthcare. We can also help you access insurance plans through the New York State of Health, the official health plan marketplace. Again, you do not need to live or work in Greece to utilize our brokerage services. We serve the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region of New York State. Visit greecechamber.org to sign up for one of our free health insurance information sessions or schedule an appointment with one of our licensed brokers. Call 585-227-7272. 585-227-7272.
Geneseo Hardware and Rental has a new expanded location on Route 28, east of the village of Geneseo. Over 6,000 square feet with a large selection of plumbing, electrical, home and garden, and much more. Geneseo Hardware offers Valspar paint, a wide selection of rental items, plus screen and window repair. Get personalized service at the new, bigger location. Geneseo Hardware and Rental, Route 28 next to Wegmans Plaza. Visit geneseo-rental.com.
I want to cook you the best cheeseburger ever, in your life, ever. I'm Camden from Tom Walls. Fresh ground steak, 2 slices of cheese. We don't cut corners. Tom Walls.
Tom Walls.
Mary Cariola Center educates and cares for individuals with complex disabilities. School and residential jobs are available with outstanding benefits and continuing education opportunities. If interested, apply now at marycariola.org/employment.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
Welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We have Kevin Wilson with us, but Kevin's here today not as a co-host. Kevin's here as a candidate for the New York State 25th Congressional District race. For those of you who might not know, Kevin's running for Congress. It's Tomorrow's election day, and I want to give you guys the chance to hear a little bit about Kevin's platform. You guys can always, of course, call in too if you guys have any questions. That number is, I don't have the number in front of me.
585-346-3000. I got you.
Did that, Kevin, because I was thinking it was 342. So, yeah. So you guys can give us a call, or you can hop over on the live stream. Either go to Facebook or YouTube, search an Andrew C. Hollister. The live stream should be there. Although I've heard periodically from people that the Facebook live streams have not been working. Doesn't surprise me. Facebook is very interested in censorship. They've shut down quite a few of my accounts. They don't want liberty on their platform, I guess.
No.
Or at least they don't want to hear somebody, giving some logic and reason. So YouTube is definitely the better place to go for that. So Kevin, we were just talking about education and loved the platform on that. I know that you mentioned that there's a few other things that have come up that we should talk about. We could start with the Second Amendment. Maybe we'll talk about vaccines as well. I know that COVID has really got people worried about their personal protection, especially while all this is happening. Some people have been very afraid of the protests. Maybe we'll talk about that later as well. But let's talk Second Amendment issues first, then we'll talk about vaccines and whether or not they should be mandated. What are your thoughts on the Second Amendment, Kevin?
Well, it's no surprise I'm pro Second Amendment. I think the Second Amendment, we can understand our right to defend ourselves as an intrinsic natural right, God-given right, and the Second Amendment is a restriction on the federal government from violating that right. And it's pretty well known where Congressman Morelli stands. He is for more gun control, for sure, and he's been pretty out front about that. It's interesting because the Republican in this race is also for more gun control, and he had listed that on his website. He had talked about how he wanted more regulations for assault weapons, which is a disappointing position for a Republican to take, although, more and more common nowadays, unfortunately. And so, I'm rated A+ by Gun Owners of America with the Monroe County chapter. I met with them a couple months back in September, had a good discussion with them. And yeah, you can be pretty sure, you'd be 100% sure that if you elect me to Congress, I will not be voting for any legislation that restricts your right to bear arms.
Very good. And would you consider proposing legislation to, roll back things like the NFA and other laws that haven't done anything to actually make a difference, that were federal infringements on our Second Amendment rights?
Yeah, I mean, there are two things that I'm thinking about right now. Is one, I think that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms should either be significantly rolled back or abolished altogether. That if Congress wants to set new gun legislation and new definitions of firearms, Congress should do that and not let an unelected bureaucracy do that for them. And we're seeing some new regulations coming out of the ATF right now. So that's where I think that we can focus on things. And any functions like, illegal gun trafficking of, people who are trying to sell dangerous weapons to terrorists and whatnot, those can be handled by other legitimate law enforcement organizations, either at the state police level or at the FBI level, if it rises to that. And then there's another bill that I'm really interested in, a bill that is actually proposed by Chris Collins over in the 27th, and it was a bill to set at a nationwide level the same level of maximum restrictions on firearms, and that's one that I'm looking into, because I think with cases like I think it was McDonald versus Chicago and the Heller case and whatnot, the Constitution does say that the rights defined or implied by the Bill of Rights, including the Second Amendment, are incorporated into the states, so the states also have to follow those rights. So I think it would be constitutional to say, okay, here's the maximum level of firearm restrictions that you can set for your state. You can set them less restrictive than that, but not more restrictive than this, because the Constitution restricts the federal government and also the state governments from having too much of a burden on individuals to be able to exercise their right to self-defense.
So it sounds kind of like this particular bill would say, hey, states, you can't ban these specific things because it's protected by the Constitution. You can't, like, infringe in these ways, and kind of, like, spell it out pretty clearly so that, you know, for example, SAFE Act might look like, oh, sorry, like, all this stuff is not federally allowed. It's too restrictive.
Yeah, and the idea behind that bill, and I know Dwayne and I have a little bit of a disagreement with that, but the idea behind that bill is to set a maximum, not a minimum. So if you're in New York State, they're probably going to be right at that maximum. If you are in another state, they may have looser restrictions on your right to bear arms.
Yeah. Interesting. So let's talk about vaccines a little bit, because it's come up so many times on this show, whether people calling in or news articles, where people are very, very worried about, especially the COVID vaccine when it comes out, becoming mandatory, possibly on a state level, maybe on a federal level. You're running for a federal office. What are your thoughts on a mandatory COVID-19 vaccine?
Despite some rumors that go there, I'm not for any sort of mandatory vaccination. I think there's a conflation. What do I say? Where I say, you know, I am pro-vaccine in the sense that I think they generally work, that the evidence suggests that vaccines, in a broad sense, have been a net good for society. But no, I wouldn't support any sort of mandatory vaccination. You own your body. You should be able to make those decisions on your own. And that's that. I mean, particularly with the COVID vaccine, some of the initial studies have shown that some people have gotten very sick in the process of gaining immunity from COVID-19. And for some people, that's not worth the trade-off. They would rather, just take other precautions to try to prevent themselves from catching COVID-19 rather than get a vaccine that can have some negative side effects, which is something that can happen. Sometimes vaccines can, rarely have that effect, and it should be your choice. So especially at the federal level, there definitely shouldn't be any sort of vaccine mandate.
Yeah, that just makes sense to me. I mean, I had a friend the other day who had a doctor's visit and was prescribed something for, what they were going through. And they picked up their prescription and they read through the potential side effects. And then they went to, I think it was like, medications.com or drugs.com or something like that. And they researched user reviews taking that specific medication. And there were a lot of people that had some pretty negative side effects. And this person said, oh man, you know what? I don't know if I want to take this. This actually seems like this could actually be more harmful to me than it's going to produce good. And then they were like, and I looked at these reviews. A lot of other people did have really bad experiences. I don't want to have this really bad experience. I want to try something else first. And if that something else doesn't work for me, then maybe I'll turn back to this. But this just doesn't seem like it's going to be as good for my health as I was hoping it was going to be. And I think it is important for government to protect that choice.
Yeah, no, you need to have informed consent. You should understand what it is. And again, I am a big advocate of vaccines generally. I think for most people, they're the safe and good choice to make. But for some people, they're not. And you should be able to be informed about that, and you should be able to make that choice on your own.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, well, we are going to roll to our last break of the hour. When we come back, we're going to ask Kevin a few more questions. If you guys have a question for Kevin, post it in the comments, and we'll take a break here. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Need help with health insurance? The Greece Regional Chamber provides assistance with health insurance for businesses, nonprofits, families, and individuals throughout our region. We pride ourselves on the personalized service that we provide for our clients. Let us help you find health insurance plans that fit your needs and navigate the paperwork. Greece Chamber Benefit Partners, located at 2402 Westridge Road in Rochester, New York, offers a broad range of medical insurance plans for businesses, nonprofits, individuals, and families throughout the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region, working with insurance companies including Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, Univera, and MVP Healthcare. We can also help you access insurance plans through the New York State of Health, the official health plan marketplace. Again, you do not need to live or work in Greece to utilize our brokerage services. We serve the greater Rochester Finger Lakes region of New York State. Visit greecechamber.org to sign up for one of our free health insurance information sessions or schedule an appointment with one of our licensed brokers. Call 585-227-7272. 585-227-7272.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. We have Kevin Wilson with us. Kevin is running for Congress in New York's 25th district. Kevin, you know, one of the things that is pretty important but doesn't seem to get talked about really ever anymore. It's kind of like a problem that people are maybe in denial about that exists. I'm not really sure, but it's our national debt. And I don't know if people ignore it because they're like, well, the government will never run out of money. And really, we ran out of money a really long time ago. Or maybe they ignore it because they're like, well, the government will just print more money. And although that's what happens, that doesn't fix the issue. It just makes it worse. So what are your thoughts on the national debt? Are we safe? Are we good? Is it okay to just raise the roof and fill it with more sewage?
Money printer go burr. No, we have a $27 trillion national debt. I got the U.S. debt clock in front of me right now. $27 trillion, $202 billion, and a number that I'm not going to read off because it's just going to keep going up. Our interest on that debt is $341 billion. It's going up and up and up. To give you an idea of the size of this debt, our debt to GDP ratio right now is 128%. That means that our national debt is 128% of the gross domestic product of our entire country. That we have more debt than the total sum of everything that we can calculate that we've produced in our country. It's astronomical. And Republicans seem to care about this issue when they're not in power. The debt has gone up substantially under President Trump and Republican Congress when the Republicans had the House the last couple of years, but now everything's sort of on autopilot. They keep doing these continuing resolution bills for the most part that just push things out and out and out and out. And we can expect no better out of the Democrats, who seem to care a bit less about the debt. Congressman Morelli likes to present himself as a limited government guy, but when he had the opportunity to bring defense spending back down to roughly 2016, 2017 levels, a 10% cut in defense spending, he voted against the amendment to do that, unfortunately. And instead, again, we're increasing defense spending despite having, a war in Afghanistan that's supposed to be winding down, fewer commitments overseas. That's the idea anyway. And yeah, on everything else, we're just spending recklessly and pretending like it doesn't matter. But eventually, this is going to come to a head. And particularly in situations like what we have now, where we have a national emergency, we don't want to be in a position where we can't spend money in an emergency to address an issue. We've added several trillion more dollars in debt. We've spent more money this year than any other time in American history. So we need to start doing something about this now, or it's going to endanger the republic itself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think national debt in where it is today is really a reflection on how poorly people have been making financial decisions in this country long term. And it's really unfortunate because we've taken things like budgeting and home ec and just the idea of how to balance accounts out of the education system entirely, while we've allowed government to rampantly spend money with basically no oversight, no real punishment for doing bad things with our money. Just kind of keep electing the same people over and over again. So it's certainly a frustrating thing for me. I see Garrett in the comments here. Garrett says, where does Kevin stand on the recent Trump order to cease teaching critical race theory for federal employment training? Do you know what critical race theory is, Kevin? Let's start with that and explain it.
Yeah, so I mean,
2
in terms
seconds or
of
less,
yeah, right. In the critical race theory stuff, there's these books like White Fragility and How to Be Anti-Racist, and a lot of that stuff I think takes a really divisive and sometimes patronizing approach to how we deal with the very real challenge of racism in the United States. Again, it instead of putting people in and recognizing people as individuals, it tries to make race kind of like a fundamental characteristic. And I don't agree with that. So I don't know if Trump necessarily had the right motivations. And, I think that race is something that we should talk about and talk about how systems impact people of different backgrounds in different ways. But I don't know that the critical race theory stuff and kind of the aggressively woke approach to addressing racism is the right way to do that. I think it's divisive. I think it's often patronizing, and I think it's making our country worse in a lot of ways. I think we can approach this more effectively.
And I've personally had conversations with minorities, people of color, who also oppose it and say that it creates this environment where their success isn't their own because it's based solely on their race and either government assistance or being recognized based on being a minority instead of being recognized for the merits and the fruits of their labor. So I think these sort of things definitely cause a divide for sure. And there's absolutely a better way to deal with it, I think.
Yeah. What you got?
So why don't we talk? We touched on term limits a little bit. I'll give you
I'm
that,
for
or
term
I'll tell you
limits. I don't
what,
know if I said it.
I'll let you hit term limits or healthcare. I'll give you the choice.
So, term limits, real quick. Yes, I support term limits at the congressional level, where the only place I'd be able to set them. So, yes. Healthcare. I think with healthcare, both my Democrat and Republican opponents have been on record supporting Obamacare, also called the Affordable Care Act. I would not support Obamacare. I think it's the wrong solution to the healthcare problems that we're facing, because they're trying to solve the healthcare problem by leaning into an insurance market that's already broken. Because what Obamacare tries to do is to get people more insurance coverage. But what I think we need to do with healthcare is two things. Is one, bring greater price transparency to our medical decision making, particularly with non-emergency stuff, because a lot of times people don't even know what they're supposed to be paying until after a procedure's happened. There's no price negotiation in that process, and the actual cost of medical care is obscured by insurance companies themselves and the hospitals themselves. And so those costs end up being hidden in rising premiums. So I think price transparency is going to be a big part of that. And the second part of that is finding more ways to get people direct access to healthcare, right? Making it easier for people to have more control over their health outcomes. And we can do that, again, by kind of going around the insurance system and working towards ways of legalizing direct care, right? So there's these models in some states that allow you to just pay a monthly fee to doctors and to get all the primary care services that you need. And you don't operate that through the insurance system. And if you want more information on that, Larry Sharp had a lot of good talking points about that. But there's some work that needs to happen at both the federal and the state level on making those kind of healthcare models more viable.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is one of the things that always kind of gets me going about healthcare, because what government has constantly given people is not healthcare at all. They call it healthcare, but really what they've given them is mandated health insurance, and then given insurance companies this kind of golden ticket to just run wild with your coverage. And really what needs to happen is government's got to scale back. They got to, not make it mandatory for people to purchase this product, and instead loosen things up and make it so that you can interact with your doctor at your negotiated price and rates without the insurance company standing between you guys with your hand cupped in the middle. Guys, check out Kevin Wilson for Congress. Kevin, thank you so much for answering our questions. We'll meet you guys same time, same place tomorrow.
A healthy smile has health benefits beyond just teeth. It's whole body wellness. Don't live with broken, missing, or failing teeth. Lakeview Dental can restore your smile with state-of-the-art dental care. Their approach is providing reliable, comfortable solutions for the long term. Eliminate those endless visits to deal with recurring problems with your teeth.